I'm a philosopher now, but when I was younger, I was very heavily involved in competitive sport. I played table tennis when I was very young, and actually ended up competing, representing Canada in an international tournament in France when I was about 14. And I also played competitive volleyball, representing my province within Canada, and I still do play a bit of volleyball just to try to stay fit. And I guess one of the things that I've learned from that and been able to transfer to my experience in philosophy, and that I think is actually quite important, is that often it's principally perseverance that makes for success. So one of the sports halls that I train in has a quote from Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is quoted as roughly saying, well, it's because I've failed so many times. I've been given the opportunity to shoot the last shot and missed in important games and so on. It's because I've failed so many times that I actually succeed. And I think there's something really deeply right about that, that the more you persevere and try to do something well, the more likely you are to do it well. So I guess a lot of young people suffer from pessimism and sometimes depression. Can philosophy help with that? I think it can. It may not be the only thing that's needed, of course, to deal with these things. But, for instance, Albert Camus thought that the principal question was whether to commit suicide, and he took the view that one ought not to, in fact. I guess this was in contrast to Schopenhauer, who had earlier said that one ought. But Camus thought one ought not to, and instead should be defiant in the face of the meaninglessness of existence. Again, sort of a biographical fact. Myself, when I read Descartes' Meditations, I found it deeply disturbing that it could turn out that the whole world was an illusion, and that I might not be able to tell otherwise, even if it weren't. That, in fact, has passed. That anxiety that I felt then has passed, and my own outlook, certainly on those epistemic issues about knowledge, are optimistic. I think we can know, and do know, quite a lot about the world in a way that would not be possible if it were just a depressing illusion. To see this, just look at the progress of science over the last 400 years or so since Descartes was writing. We've put people on the moon and technology in our pockets that is really astounding, and we couldn't do that without awareness of what the world is like and knowledge about it. So in that front, I'm quite optimistic. So I mentioned Albert Camus a moment ago, who thought that the central philosophical question was whether to commit suicide. I studied, of course, that material as an undergraduate, and now I work on other things. But at the same time, I also looked at the great feminist philosopher Simone de Beauvoir, not actually her feminist philosophy itself, but her value theory more generally. And she took the view that it's only by engaging with the values that we are given by our community and our parents and our history and so on, not necessarily accepting it, perhaps challenging it and transforming it in various ways, but by engaging with it, that we can give our lives meaning, and that we can find support and strength, basically, from that kind of engagement. I think certainly when I read that as a late teenager, I found that quite compelling, and this was around the same time as my own anxieties induced by Descartes, and I found that solution at the time helped me to move on. Now I would give a different answer to Descartes than that, but not necessarily a different answer about the source of value and meaning in our lives.